Leaving teenagers home alone is always a huge risk for parents, but when Karen and Chip Schoonover left their four girls behind to take a romantic couple's getaway, they never could have imagined in their wildest dreams that daughters were capable of something like this. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. As soon as the parents pulled into the driveway of their beloved family home, they knew something was different, and they knew the girls were behind it. And when they opened the front door, it was obvious what it was. The Schoonover family lived in the popular vacation spot of North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, but Karen and Chip had spent most of their married life being dedicated parents to their four daughters, Haley, Holly, Heather, and Alice. But with the four of them grown and Heather, the oldest, had even flown away from the family nest. So the couple decided that during Christmas break in December, they would finally treat themselves to a much-needed vacation. Whilst most kids would have been upset by their parents taking a vacation without them, the girls were fully on board and excited beyond words for their hardworking parents. Plus, this meant that the girls were going to have the house to themselves for a whole week. And being teenagers and rather close, they had quite a few ideas on how to properly utilize this taste of freedom. Heather was also back home for the holidays, so the four sisters could finally enact their scheme. All four sisters were determined to see their plan through, but it was Holly and Haley who had the idea. Holly was the second oldest and aspired to be an actress, while Haley, the youngest, was intrigued with videography. Together, the two of them decided to record every step of their plan, not only for themselves, but also for the public. They had been thinking about it for years now, and finally, now they didn't have their parents around, it was the perfect and only time to execute it. Now you might be thinking that four teenagers left alone for a week surely means that the girls were planning an outrageous party for their friends and wrecking the house beyond recognition. Well, no. The Schoonover sisters had something very different and contrasting in mind. They planned on giving their home a makeover as a thank you to their parents and wanted to not just clean up the house for their return, but completely update it. As we mentioned above, the idea came to Holly and Haley, who knew just how stressful it was for their parents to raise four daughters and how the couple had been unable to focus their energy and finances on nothing except their girls. And now the four daughters wanted to thank their parents for their unwavering commitment to parenthood by giving their tired family home major spruce. The girls had been saving for months upon months to finally give their parents a gift of a lifetime. While the idea of giving their home a little spruce sounded easy enough, and with a hefty sum saved up, the girls had thought that they would be able to do it with plenty of time and energy to spare. But as they began the project, they soon realized that even with four of them, just cleaning the house was turning out to be a huge task. The girls had to organize, declutter, and clean decades of accumulated stuff. On top of that, all four of them didn't have any experience with DIY. Home renovations were relying on learning everything as they went. This only made the process longer and harder than they had expected. But despite all the initial hurdles, the girls were determined to continue with the surprise. They knew that even if they were able to clean and spruce up one room in their home, their parents would be overjoyed after 2 days of just cleaning. This was a surprise that was turning out to be way more laborious than the girls expected it to be, so it was time to call some friends and family for help. But of course, the girls had to carefully pick the people who would be relied on keeping this a complete secret for their parents. So, they organized a few friends who were overjoyed to come over and help them finally finish cleaning and organizing the house as a gift for Karen and Chip. With time running low, the girls ultimately had a clean home, with the old dirty carpet, years of clutter and forgotten memorabilia finally thrown out and scoured. It was time to start the real work. The girls went to their local home maintenance store and bought all the basic supplies they thought they needed. Gallons upon gallons of paint and brushes. They didn't have any personal experience with home renovations, but relied heavily on tips found on the internet to help themselves. But as the girls brought all the expensive haul home and jumped into following all these tips, it all seemed much harder than it looked. It was obvious why their parents hadn't taken on these renovations themselves in all these years. Feeling the pressure of their plans, the girls were getting tired and overwhelmed, but they weren't anywhere close to being done. It wasn't the time to give up. They had made a commitment to themselves, and they were going to finish it. What made this stressful process easier was that the girls were together and could find comfort in each other's company. Ever since Heather had moved away, the four of them were barely able to spend some quality time together. But now all four of them working on this project together, they were able to not only strengthen their bond, but rely on each other to give this surprise completed before their parents came back home from holiday. For most of their lives, their parents had given them Christmas gifts, but now it was time for the girls to return the favor. The girls soon realized that if they looked at this as a fun family project and played music, took pictures, and generally enjoyed themselves, the whole renovation felt easier and went by quicker. And with this simple shift in perspective, they did just that. On day 4 of the project, and the girls managed to completely repaint the home and clean the woodwork throughout the house. The hardest part of the project was behind them. Another thing that made this project easier to accomplish was the girls documenting it all by taking pictures and videos. And of course, Haley, the family's photographer/videographer, loved this as was able to brush up on her own talents. Plus, the girls loved the idea of showing their parents how they got to the end result, and of course, as a keepsake for themselves. Never did the four sisters assume that their simple videos and pictures would turn them into internet celebrities. Now came the fun part. It was time to replace the worn and grungy furniture and finally give their parents a taste of comfort and luxury. The girls didn't have much money left, so they headed to the thrift store, and it looked like luck was on their side, as the girls managed to find great quality pieces which perfectly suited the newly updated home without breaking their tight budget. Finally, they could see an end to this project. The girls had done everything together, but due to other work commitments, Haley and Holly were left alone to finish the job. They didn't have much time though, as their parents were going to be home any day. But the work that was meant to be done by 4 now had to be done by just the 2 of them, and whilst the other 2 sisters suggested that they finish the project halfway and call it a day, Haley and Holly were committed to seeing it through. With just the 2 of them, the girls had decided to pull in all-nighters, but despite being exhausted, they never lost their ability to have fun and enjoy the whole process, and of course, documented it all. The teens who had no experience whatsoever in home renovation managed to install brand new carpet in the living room, and also finished painting the kitchen cabinets and added new drawer handles. In one snippet from the video, you can see Haley commenting about the level of stress the 2 girls were in and saying, "I feel like I'm in the army," and how she now suffered from stress acne. Well, despite all of that, the girls managed to finish the entire project just in time. At 7 a.m., just hours before their parents were set to return, they finally were satisfied with the surprise. But they had no time to sleep. The girls needed to get themselves ready for their parents' arrival. Heather was waiting outside to record the parents' reaction as they pulled up to the front door. While the girls hadn't made any drastic changes to the front of the house, they had cleaned up outside as well, and Karen instantly noticed. She started laughing and admiring the girls' handiwork. No idea what awaited her inside. As Chip and Karen opened the front door though, they were left speechless and shell-shocked. They had expected to come to a house riddled with mess, but were greeted with a completely different home. Karen's jaw dropped. "What?" she shrieked. "What did you do?" The mother of 4 was left dumbfounded, with Chip just as dumbstruck. And of course, the girls proudly showed off each of their upgrades and documented their parents' reactions. This was more than the parents could take, and both of them hugged the daughters with tears in their eyes. Every parent hopes that they raise their kids well, but it was clear to Karen and Chip that their girls were 1 in a million, especially after their selfless and generous surprise.